Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Ben, join me.
Hey, guys.
So here we are.
And here you are.
Here I am.
Back in your old digs.
Yeah, back in...
For those of you who are watching on video.
Yeah, back in Florida. You can tell my background changed.
Yeah.
So here I am. And I've made a big decision. So we're going to talk about big decisions.
I love it. What is your big decision, Glenn?
Geez, if you only knew. My big decision is I'm moving to the Dominican Republic. So
Called it. Go ahead.
You did call it. Ben Barber was the first one to call this move.
It was obvious, but
you
anyway.
Probably, I think you called it before I even got over there.
Yeah, I mean, we were having, you were going on like a 2-month vacation, and we were having conversations at the beginning of the year, or even possibly the end of last year, about you saying that you wanted to move to another country, possibly, and live on the beach and help people, and that your business was on. So I assumed he gets a taste of this, he's gone.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I didn't know I was going to move. I just thought I was going to travel internationally. I didn't know I was going to move internationally. But I was open to it. I mean, I'm always open to whatever, I like to think.
How do you make big decisions, though?
You just stay open to them.
All right. Well, this has been a
very short
55-second episode. We'll see you guys next time. Check us out on Insight Timer. Anyway,
thanks for listening.
So, all right. So you stay open to it. That's number one. Yeah.
Well, I think that I think the biggest thing is for me. I guess it's we kind of do. This is actually a great place to start because we actually have to start at the beginning, I think, before you're necessarily in the situation to be in the right mindset. I think that's helpful. And I think it kind of bleeds out into when the decision making is the time for decision making arises. Because if you're not in that space before it arises, you're probably not going to be in that space when it arises. So yeah, it's just kind of a state of being to some degree where there isn't an attachment to a specific outcome. One of the biggest things is we're so trying to come to conclusions in life. We always think we're supposed to know what we're going to do next because it gives us that sense of safety and security we're seeking. And it's confusing because we don't usually know what we're going to do next. We don't know what we're going to do until it's time to do it. So we spend all this time trying to figure it out before we have the information necessary to figure it out. And we stress over it, which causes constriction and tightness within us. And then, like every time we get a little nudge, like maybe I should move there. Then we go, oh, well, I should move there. It looks like I should move there. I think I should move there. And then all of a sudden something negative happens and we go, oh, maybe I shouldn't move there. I don't think I should move there. And then we play them against each other. We go, well, this says I should move there. And then this says I shouldn't move there. So what do I do? Because one says I should and one says I shouldn't. And I don't know what to do. And I don't know which is one bigger than the other. Is two bigger than the against, or is the against bigger than the two? And these are the mental juxtapositions that we get into that drive us absolutely insane, crazy, stress us out. And we're so constricted that a natural answer has no opportunity to arise within you. So I think that's, oftentimes, and we do that with many things, big decisions, but we also do it with little decisions. So I kind of created a rule for decisions. Like most of the time, if we can't make a decision, if we don't know what to do, it's because we don't have enough information. It's just that simple. We don't have enough information. So relax and just gather information. And in some situations, we have to actually go out and gather information. We have to seek it. And it's much more enjoyable if we take the coming to a conclusion piece and put it on the back burner for a while, because otherwise we get back into that same head game again. We go gather information, and as soon as we get a piece, we go, okay, is this the piece I need to make my decision yet? Well, I don't know. Let's put it in through the ringer and try to figure it out. And then, and it's like, just give yourself some time. Your ego thinks it's in control of you. So use that against it. If you put a time frame on something, you go, I am not making a decision for 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, whatever. I'm not making a decision for 2 weeks. So I'm not going to try to come to a conclusion. And your ego goes, oh, we're not trying to come to a conclusion? Okay, well, I'll just, there's 2 ways to look at this. Like if your ego is in control of you a lot and it's trying to control you, then you can look at it like it goes, oh, okay, well, I'll just wait until the 2 weeks are up and then I'll control them then, because I have complete control over them. I don't have to waste 2 weeks trying to control them over every little thing because they're not making a decision yet. And then if your ego is really not in control of you and you're in control of it, this works as well, because you're just looking at your ego saying, I know you're here to protect me. I know you're looking out to prevent me from experiencing things that I don't like, but I'm not coming to any conclusion. So I don't really need your input yet. I don't need your input. So you can just rest. I'm just doing some stuff over here for 2 weeks that has no danger to it. I'm just gathering information. I don't need you coming in and trying to figure out if there's any danger in any of this information. So either way, it just puts that ego to rest for a couple weeks and then gather information. And it's a lot more relaxed process when you're not trying to figure out anything. Just like, I'm just gathering information, nothing important, just not trying to figure anything out, just gathering information. And that's a stress-less way of doing things. You're not all stressed because you're not trying to come to the conclusion, and that's where the stress comes in. So, so I think gathering information, we tend to skip over that and keep going. As soon as we gather one piece, it's like, okay, can I make the conclusion? So we just put the conclusion off and gather information. And then you can sit. And a lot of times, once you gather all the information, one side is glaringly obvious that it's correct and one side isn't. And if it's not, maybe you need to gather more information, until it is. So I think that is like the daily life, more common way of making decisions.
So my question is about information overload, right? So there's so many options now for everything at all times, in all directions. There are stats that and studies that have suggested that younger generations aren't getting married as much because of things like Tinder and Bumble. Just the fact that your pool of like picking a partner used to be like who you knew at work, who you knew at church, who you knew at your social gatherings, who your friends introduced you to. And now, like, you pick up a phone and there's 10,000 options for you, and you literally get to go, yes, no, yes, yeah. What do you, and so there's so much or like picking a house, you used to go to a real estate agent and they would go, here are your 5 options that I think are the best for you, you know. And now with Zillow and Trulia and all of the different online things, like, you know, we can if we want to sort of fixate on just information, we can
Right.
go in that realm for ever.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm a researcher, so I can pop into that realm very easily.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, you know, I think every situation is a little different. You know, it's like, you know, when you're dating, I don't know. I don't think Tinder really has too much to do with people not getting married. I mean, you know, like, I mean, to me, it seems like there's much bigger things that have to do with that, you know, and like just because, like, if you're sitting there, like if you're dating and your head is like, hey, I'm interested in a committed relationship, or even sometimes it's not, and then all of a sudden you meet somebody and you fall in love, like what does Tinder have to do with that? You know, I don't think there's that many people going, you know what? I've been dating this woman for 2 years. I love her. I'd love to build a life with her, but I could go swipe on Tinder. You know, like,
Excess information is a great excuse to not make a big decision.
right. So, like, you know, so if people are looking for an excuse, they're going to find one. So, but I do think like the housing thing was even a better example, because that, you know, I just think it's a good example. It's got more, you know, there's endless options. So and this is one of the reasons why relaxing when you do it helps. Because when you're stressed, you're so attached to an outcome. So here's that other piece, that spiritual law. We have to be unattached to an outcome. We have to lean into our trust and our faith. So when we're too attached to an outcome, we think that there is this perfect answer out there. So we're searching for the perfect answer. And it's like, there isn't a perfect answer. There's a good answer for us, but there's probably multiple good answers. There's probably multiple houses you could buy that you could live a very satisfying life in. You know, your happiness in your life is not contingent on the house that you buy. Of course, you want to make an informed decision. Of course, you want to make, you know, a decision that you think is in the right direction and what you want. But I mean, if, like, this is something I do with a lot of things, like if it comes down to 2 or 3 things and I'm just sitting there and I've done all the research and I literally, like, I'm at a stalemate, I cannot figure it out, I'm just sitting there, all of a sudden, like, after a little while, it usually dawns on me that any one of these 3 would probably be fine. You know, so that's something that we have to keep in mind. Like, there's not necessarily one perfect answer. If it's that difficult, it's probably just showing you that any of them are fine. You know, so, you know, that's something to keep in mind too. But like, one thing that I did because I can over research things, I started pulling back and like leaning on my faith a little bit more and going, you know what? I believe that there's a force that guides me and leads me places, and I'm taking too much control over things. I'm sticking my hands in there too much. I'm researching every single avenue. So like with the house thing, the way that looks, you know, in a real life situation is, you know, I've moved many times, and, you know, and I've really researched a lot of the moves. And when I was moving to the horse farm in Rhode Island a couple moves ago, I was looking at it, and I saw this horse farm and it said no pets. And one of the big reasons I was moving was because I wanted to get a dog. So I was like, that's weird that they don't allow dogs on a horse farm, with all this land and stuff. But so my brain said, look into it. And I went, no, I'm not going to look into it. I was kind of in a time squeeze because the place I was going to move into just got pulled from me. And I needed to find a place that had a possible business space in it. And so my options were somewhat limited, but I was like, I'm not going to waste my time chasing down things that don't look right for me just to see that if I dig deep enough, maybe they are right. I'm not doing that. It's too much research. It's too much work. Why would the universe present the perfect place for me and then make it look like the wrong place? Like that doesn't make any sense. So I was like, I'm not going to chase down every possibility. I'm going to chase down the possibilities that look right, that seem like they might be the right thing. And I'm going to trust that the universe is going to guide me. So that's what I did. And then, a few days later, that horse farm, I did not look at the horse farm. And I said, universe, if you want me to look at this horse farm, you need to make it look good because it doesn't look good. So somebody posted, like I had posted that I was looking for a place. Somebody that I didn't know somehow saw my post and messaged me and said, you should check out my friend's post. So I checked and it was that same horse farm. And there was a comment on it that said, hey, that's weird. Why don't you allow dogs? And I'm like, yeah, that was my question. I'm going to message the person. Now this came up twice. It was shown to me in a very clear way that now there's a reason for me to look into it because it came back in my peripheral and it was shown to me. So I messaged, why don't you want dogs? She said, well, I have a service dog and the horses. I would have to make sure that the dog was okay. And I was like, oh, well, I don't have my dog yet. So if I agree to give you approval over my dog, would that work? Absolutely. That's a wonderful idea. Excellent. So I moved in. I ended up moving in and she helped me. Her knowledge of animals and dogs in particular, she went and helped me pick out my dog. And I got the best dog ever.
You had faith.
I had faith. And because of my faith, I got faith. So yeah, but this is, and people listening that don't know what we're talking about, my dog's name is Faith. That's what I named her. So I mean, we have to take our hands off and relax a little bit. That's the biggest thing, is stop trying to control everything. Have a little faith, and work with the universe. We have this divine intelligence out there that really wants our best. Why don't we lean on it? Use it. Hey, if this is not the right place for me, shut the door on it. I do that all the time. I love that. It's like, hey, if that's how I lost the house I was going to move into before the horse farm. I said, universe, this place looks like the right place for me, but I have a very limited perspective. So if it is not the right place for me to move in, please shut the door on it. Because if you don't, I'm going to move in there. So I put down a deposit. I had the lease. I was going over it. And then all of a sudden I got a phone call that said, yeah, we're selling the place. We're not going to rent it. And I went, oh, crap. I just gave my notice. I'm supposed to be leaving my place in 2 weeks. That's not good. There must be another place even better for me. And that's when I found the horse farm that I think was better for me. So this is how things unfold when we're not trying to control them, when we're leaning back and having a little faith. So, when you're doing the research and gathering the information, yeah, you can set time limits. I'm just going to gather information for 2 weeks or 1 week or 2 days, whatever the situation allows, whatever sounds like it makes sense in your head and is reasonable. And then I'm going to assess it then. And then when I assess it, I'll look and I'll say, hey, do I have enough information to make a decision? Yes. Okay. It's obvious I should do this. Oh, okay. It's not really obvious yet. Okay. Well, is it reasonable for me to take another couple days or another week to gather more information? Yeah, that works. Okay, then I'll do that. But, setting like little time frames and then assessing the situation and then setting another time frame is a helpful way to manage that too. That, and, set that thing in your head before. If something looks like it's probably not right for me, I am not going to go down that rabbit hole, because that's what the internet is a gigantic series of rabbit holes. So you got to pick the ones you're going to go down intelligently. So, yeah. So I guess I think that kind of wraps up that. I mean, unless you have any other points, but otherwise I'm going to go into kind of how it looked like when I decided to move to DR.
I would love to know that story as a friend, not even as a co-host.
So yeah, after 2 or 3 weeks there, I was kind of going, my mind started going, you really like this, Glenn. You think you should move here? Geez, maybe you should move here. Hey, do you think you should move here? And I was like, after several times, I noticed my mind asking this question, and I was like, you're trying to decide if I should move here? Like, why? I've been here 3 weeks. Like, why would I'm going to be here 2 months. I'm going to have more experiences. So I'm going to have more information to be able to make a better decision later. There's zero reason for me to try to make a decision now. So why would I? And then I took it a step further and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then if the energy is so different here, when I go back to the States, I'm probably going to really notice a difference. So I'll have even more information then. And I don't see any reason to make it before that. So why don't I just wait until I get back into the States, where I've taken in all my experiences in a DR, and I've also experienced what it feels like to be back in the United States after taking in all these experiences. That sounds like a better time to start looking at making a decision. And that made sense to me. So I was like, yeah, hey, ego, hey, mind, I'm not making a decision until I get back, because why would I? So don't think about it. So I stopped thinking about it. And then a few weeks later, maybe a couple weeks later, I think I was there like 4 or 5 weeks. And then all of a sudden I had gone up to the mountains, and I was like, oh my God, like I thought the beach and the nature down here was amazing, and the people, and I thought all this was amazing. The mountains is my jam, man. Like the elevation, the hiking, the streams, the lagoons, the waterfalls, like this is, come on. This is insane. So I had experienced that. And then, so I was just sitting in my living room one day, not doing anything. Like, I don't know, I just sat down and I was just sitting there, which is nice. I did that more over there. And I'm trying to do that more here again, because there's a pull to constantly do, so I'm sometimes I just sit there and I just don't do anything. So I was just sitting there not doing anything. All of a sudden I heard this voice go, hey, Glenn, why wouldn't you move there? Well, here. I was in the DR at the time. Hey, Glenn, why wouldn't you move here? And it was very calm, and it wasn't controlling. And I was like, what? And the voice said, just wondering, like, why wouldn't you move here after what you've experienced? Why wouldn't you? And I noticed the voice was coming from my body, not my head. And I'm like, okay, that's not my ego. trying to figure something out. It has a different energy to it. That's my inner voice, very calmly, peacefully, non-controlling, non-anxious, just asking a simple question. So I thought about it and I'm like, I don't know. I can't think of a reason why I wouldn't move here. And then the voice kind of went, yeah, that's because you probably should move here. You kind of know, don't you? Do you kind of know already? I mean, there's really not a reason there's not a reason that you shouldn't. So you kind of know that you're going to, don't you? And I was like, I guess I do. I guess I do know. I was going to wait though. Yeah, but and I'm having this conversation with myself and it's like, yeah, I know you were going to wait. And it's not like you need to necessarily lock it in or anything. It's just talking. Like you kind of already have gathered enough information. You already know. I'm like, yeah, I guess I do. Huh. I guess I'm moving to the DR. That's interesting. Wow. So, and that's when I started accepting, and I didn't tell anybody for a week or two. I just kind of sat with it and allowed it to be. And it was, there was no pressure to do anything about it. There was no anxiousness attached to it. It was just very relaxed. And that's when it's the inner voice talking, when it's coming from your body and when it's relaxed and it's not trying to control you. That voice wasn't trying to get me to do anything. It was just trying to help me see something that I already knew, So that's how it happened that time.
That's really nice. And it's funny. There's sometimes you just know, right? Like, and it's not as much of the information finding. And I mean, I'm sure you had to do a lot of research after that of what it takes to do that. But sometimes the big decision just
right. And that's actually a really good point. Like the decision was, should I move here? And I came to the conclusion that I should move there. I didn't know how. That's the thing. I think that's the rabbit hole of information that gets us stuck a lot of times is we start going down those rabbit holes. Well, if I move here, what does that look like? How would I do it? Am I going to be able to get rid of my car? Am I going to be able to bring my dog over? Am I going to be able to get out of my lease? How is it? Like all the hows get in the way. And that's none of my business. I'm just trying to figure out whether I want to move there or not. Like if I want to move there, like the way I kind of qualify things when I make big decisions is I just, I do this a lot. And I don't think I ever realized how much I do it. I lean back from things a lot and I go, has anybody ever done this on the planet? Yeah. People have moved from the United States to the Dominican Republic before. People with dogs have moved from the United States to the Dominican Republic before. And they weren't all multi-gazillionaires. So somehow, somewhere in history, somebody figured out a way to do it. And they were in a lease and had a dog. So like if they figured out a way to do it, I'm sure I can figure out a way to do it. It's just a matter of figuring out how at that point, which that I'm comfortable with that. I've done it enough and I've lived this way enough where I don't have stress really over the house. I mean, when I start looking at, how do I get my dog over? And I start running into brick wall after brick wall after brick wall with airline issues and stuff like that. Does it get a little irritating or frustrating? Yeah, a little bit. But then I take a step back and I go, well, Glenn, look at the big picture. Take a step back, gain perspective. Has anybody gotten a dog that's 50 pounds from the United States to the Dominican Republic? Of course they have. I mean, come on. Like in the airline things, it literally says that in certain situations, you can travel with miniature horses. So I'm sure somehow, it literally says that. I'm sure somehow I can figure out how to get a 50-pound dog over to the Dominican Republic. Somehow, some way, over a period of time. You know? So, and somehow I'll figure out how to get out of the car lease. The right answer will pop up. It's like all the hows will come out when you start walking in the direction of the solution. If you don't get caught up in the problem and start walking in the direction of the solution, and you don't try to figure out all that stuff before you make the decision. I think that's the problem. People have trouble making big decisions because they try to figure out all the hows before they decide if they even want to move. If you want to move, you can make it happen. Don't worry about the hows. The hows are stage 2. You just got to figure out if you want to move. Yeah. So I think that's a big piece in how to make decisions. Don't get caught up in the hows. Those will all come. And when I look at everything that I've done that's worked out, it's always been like that. When you start with a knowingness, and this is actually taught like by spiritual teachers and stuff, and some manifesting. How much I hate using the word manifesting because it has so many little like traps that you can fall in. But like, I think it was Mike Dooley really did a nice job at teaching this with manifesting. I think he calls it the cursed house. Don't get caught up in the cursed house. That's the universe's job to help you figure all that stuff out. It's just, just figure out what you want to do and then start walking in the direction of it. The rest falls into place. And I noticed that right when I woke up, like 8 or 9 months after I got sober, I moved to Rhode Island and from Florida, and everybody was going, well, how are you going to do that? Well, I don't know. I'm going to go be with my son. I knew that I needed to be with my son. I just knew that. And people like, well, he can come visit you. And I was like, no, I need to be with him. Well, what's that going to look like? I don't know. Like, what? So you're going to see him every other weekend? No, that doesn't. No, I'm going to be with him like on a daily basis. Maybe not every day, but multiple times a week. So I can really be present and his father in his life. His role model as his father in his life. I want to be there, a part of his daily life as much as possible. Like, how the heck are you going to do that? That's not how it works. The court doesn't give that. They give every other weekend. I'm like, nah. Well, how are you going to get it? I don't know. Is your ex-wife going to let you see him? I don't know. You don't have any rights. Yeah, but where are you going to live? I don't know. Where are you going to work? I don't know. I didn't know anything, and people kept asking me these things as if I needed to know. And I was so open and so unattached at that particular time in my life. I just followed the knowing, and then everything else fell into place. That my aunt and uncle had moved to Rhode Island, and I didn't even know that. They had moved to Rhode Island and ended up moving back to Massachusetts right after after I moved out of their house. I stayed with them for a couple months till I got a place, till I found a job. Like everything was just handed to me. My ex-wife went back to school and needed me and moved in with her boyfriend. So she needed me as a babysitter. Like otherwise, because I was seeing him for like 2 hours a week. And then all of a sudden she went back to school and moved in with her boyfriend, and her family couldn't watch him. So now she needed me. So I moved right down the street and moved my work schedule around until I could see him 5 days a week. And then got that locked into court as my visitation rights right after I got it. So I was with him 5 days a week. I couldn't have mapped this stuff out. The hows got figured out for me. I just kept walking in the direction of what I wanted. And I think that's a big piece of making the big decisions. So, and then I think, and I know we're over, the last piece I'm going to touch on is just kind of like, people have asked me if this is I said, I'm moving to the DR, and they said, is this permanent? And I didn't even understand the question. Like, are you moving there permanently? And I didn't understand the question. And so I started thinking about it, and I was like, this is really interesting. I think this is how a lot of people's minds work. When they're making big decisions, they're trying to figure out the rest of their lives, either unconsciously or consciously. And I so don't do that I didn't even understand the question. Like, so when somebody said, are you moving there permanently? My mind, I wanted to give them a thoughtful answer. So my mind started going like, what are they asking? Am I moving there permanently? Like until I die permanently? Like, is that what they mean? Because I don't know if that's what they're asking. Or are they meaning like permanently as far as I know? Like,
it's open-ended, yeah. But like,
is it open-ended?
Yeah.
Like, as far as I know, are you moving there permanently? Is that the question? Or is permanent to them like a minimum of 20 years? I literally don't understand the thought process, so I don't know how to answer the question. And so, so I was like, I think a lot of people, like I said, unconsciously or consciously, try to figure out, am I going to be happy there forever? Like, is this really going to enhance my life forever? And like, I never asked myself that question. Because I have no idea.
Right. Your intention was to move to Florida open-ended. You didn't realize that you would only be there for 2 years.
Right, which is a perfect example. Like, I would love to set roots down somewhere because I haven't. So I would love to set roots down somewhere. So when I moved to Florida, I kind of assumed I would probably buy a house and set my roots here. But I'm not attached to that. So when this came up and I went, oh, I think I would enjoy it over there more. Okay. So I guess I'm not setting my roots in Florida. And it wasn't like, oh no, I set my heart on living in Florida and now I'm breaking away from that. Am I making the right decision? No, I was never like, I thought that that's what I would do. And if life directed me in the direction of purchasing a house in Florida, I probably would have, but it didn't lead me there. It led me over here. So I'm just looking. So I'm not overly attached to any particular thing because I know that my happiness is not in those things. My happiness comes from within. And if I keep following that, if maybe I'm never meant to set roots down anywhere. It's possible. I don't think that that's the truth. I think I just haven't found my place yet. But if I wake up 40 years from now and I have never set roots anywhere, but I've been happy, I'm okay with that. The point is to be happy, not lock into some mental idea of what it looks like to be happy and then go get that and lock into it. So the happiness comes from within. And I think, that's a foundational piece. So I think the big thing is, if you look at all the different pieces in this, to sum it up, it's just relaxing, leaning back. Don't attach to a particular outcome. Don't try to figure every aspect out when you don't overly research. Don't be attached to a specific outcome. Don't, hold on to things too tightly. Relax. All those things are spiritual principles. Relax, allow, and when you do those things and live those that way in a lot of areas, there's less stress, there's less constriction. And when there's less stress and less constriction, and you're more in a relaxed state, that inner voice can arise and you can hear it. Be still and know that I am God. Listen to the small, still whisper. Like it's closer to us than our breath. All these spiritual teachings allude to this, but we're so tight and trying to control everything that there's no way we can hear this little whisper. We're not still enough for a voice to arise, and to have that knowingness for the most part. But I bet you most people I talk to have experienced a knowing before. There was something in their life that they just knew. And so think back to that, lock into it. Remember what it felt like. Remember how it came about. Remember as much as you can about that, and get familiar with the difference between that and something you tried to control that turned out to be a cluster mess. And just, and see the difference between the two. It's very dramatic. One is more relaxed, one is very stressed. So, I think the biggest piece is just relaxation and paying attention and gathering information, and you'll know. And once you know, just start walking in the direction of making it a reality, and it will.
And if people want help with their big decisions, want somebody to help them talk it out, in need of a good life coach, you can message Glenn wherever you're listening to this. Wherever you're listening to this, there's contact information there.
I might know a good life coach to recommend.
I don't. Anywho, so yes, also check out all of the rest of the podcasts wherever you're listening to this. Insight Timer has all of them now, and everywhere has all of them. So wherever you are listening or watching to this, check that out. Also, you can check out our lives, 6 p.m. Eastern, on all of Glenn's social media, YouTube, stuff like that. So that's all wonderful every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Glenn, I'm excited. By the time people are listening to this or watching this, you'll already be back in the Dominican Republic.
Most likely.
So that's fun. And right now, they are, as we are recording this, I was watching the live stream of the podcast that we released last Sunday, and you were like, it's hot, and I'm like, don't worry about it. It's July 5th. I'm like, don't worry about it. It's going to be October when people hear this, and now I'm like, it's going to be January. So and now we're in October, and I'm like, oh man, life changes a lot by the time we, because we're the live show. If you want your questions answered live every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. But these are wonderful little time capsules for me, just because we're ahead a couple weeks and everything changes so much right now.
Yeah, the only constant is change. So Get comfortable with it.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk with you soon.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can find all of Glenn's podcasts right here on Insight Timer. Please leave a comment or send a message to connect.